Can hurt to err on the side of protectiveness and conservatism. So if you see these kinds of things out there, people report it, keep an eye open, and a lot of these things will get squashed early on. Back to you, Reed.
Thank you, John. Good advice. And not only should you lock your, put your ammo and your gun in two different places, lock both of them. And it doesn't hurt to put a lock through the pistol too, but hide them away. And if they say, if it was reported someone's acting a little weird today, I would have been reported every day. But yes, if somebody is doing something you think is really offbeat, or you get a rumor, report it. It doesn't hurt. Got a guest with us, Paul Christopher. Paul has written a book on, I don't understand. Together, yeah, come on over here a little more. See, then he can get up closer to us. There you go. Paul Christopher, who's written a book on how to stop smoking. And does this require drugs or anything?
You're joking, aren't you?
What are you here for, Paul?
Was asked to come and talk about a column I'd written for the Observer.
Yeah.
About basically advocating for a national health plan.
Okay, and he did write a beautiful article, and not part of national health care be stop smoking probably, but we have a...
I did do that.
Yeah. Incidentally, he did indicate that we need a national health care program, and of course it's being blocked in Congress by money. Money! One of the biggest collectors of money is the national health care insurance programs. They cream off 30%, according to the statistics, right off the top, which is a lot of dough for health care, especially since it costs 5% currently for your Medicare or Medicaid program, which is operated by the government and works pretty well. And all over the world, we're the only country left that pays the insurance companies huge amounts of money to insure us. And Congress won't do a thing about it. They give annually hundreds of millions of dollars to congressmen. Yeah. What do you think effect that has? Well, nothing's going to change. As long as I don't ever expect to see a national health care program, which was immediately blocked in Congress again when the option was brought up by Obama. And that ain't going to happen, guys. They're going to keep collecting all this money from us, and there's nothing we can do about it because it goes through Congress, and Congress allows it. How about that? Is that right?
It's absolutely correct. There's the main complaint you always hear from the government is they can't afford it, and realistically, the reality is they can't afford not to do it. They're paying more money for uninsured than they would be to provide the insurance. There's number one. Number two, we have Medicare, we have Medicaid, we have a VA system, we have all these different layers of insurance and health care, when in reality, if you place them all into one, everybody's covered, nobody's hurt by anything, including veterans, and I'm a veterans advocate.
You served, where did you serve?
I was in Vietnam.
No.
I did 13 months in Vietnam. For example, if you're in Iraq or Afghanistan and an IOD blows your leg off, if you have sugar and you're elderly and you lose a leg, if you're in a car accident and you lose a leg, the treatment's the same. What you need is the same. You don't have to have a whole separate hospital system because it got blown off in combat, and another system because you happen to be elderly, and then another system because you're younger, and even a fourth system if you're poor and you don't have any insurance at all. That makes no sense.
Yeah.
What the government's promised veterans is to take care of them. You can take care of them with vouchers too. You know, there's no reason you can't have a voucher system where a veteran comes home, they go right down to Brooks Hospital or a local hospital, wherever they are, and get what they need, as opposed to funneling thousands of veterans into one or two hospitals in, for example, Erie and Buffalo. And what happens there is you have a backlog. Just like water going down a narrowing channel, it backs up.
Yeah, I was an EMT on the fire department, and we brought a guy in. And you call ahead to the hospital, you tell him he's going to the VA hospital in Erie. And you call ahead and say, we got a transport, we're bringing him in. I called in, they said, sorry, we don't have room, take him somewhere else. There you go.
There you go.
There you go. So off to another hospital.
and they need to do some price controls. I understand heart surgery is not putting in a faucet. I understand it's a very skilled procedure. I understand not everyone can do it. I understand the education involved. But who determined that a surgery like that costs $500,000 or $1 million? Who set that price? If it's a 12-hour procedure, $1 million is a lot of money. $500,000 is a lot of money. But the AMA is going to keep things the way they are as long as they can because it's to their advantage. Obviously, the pharmaceutical companies are a huge issue because we all know you can go to Canada and get the same drugs here for half the money. The insurance company themselves, as you stated, they're taking 30% right off the top all the way across the board. And there's another factor. Medicare, you're right, is 3 to 5% I've heard for administrative costs. So you set up a system like Medicare, get rid of everything else, and you're in. You could even raise the Medicare tax from 1.5% to 2%. Is not going to kill anybody. And there's your money. We can afford it.
Yeah, well,
But we need to sit on some powerful people.
yeah,
and we won't.
that's it. Why are we the only developed country in the world that doesn't have a national health care program?
Because our Congress was bought and paid for by the people who like things just the way they are.
Yeah, as Will Rogers said a century ago, you know, the best Congress money can buy.
Absolutely, and that is the case. That is the case, and the Supreme Court decision allowing these super PACs has made it even worse,
right.
and rapidly worse.
Yeah, the major corporations now can whack any politician they disagree with now because they're unlimited in the amount of money they can pour in. When you pour $1 billion into a campaign, it's a winner. You got television running 24/7, you know, every 15 minutes.
I never understood what was behind determining that General Motors is a person under the Constitution. Right. I thought that was more than a bit of a stretch, but we're paying for it now because that system is going to ensure that the system we have for healthcare stays because it's placed all the money and all the power in the hands of a smaller and smaller group of people, and that's what's going on with healthcare.
Well, the insurance companies are the most powerful companies in the world now.
And pharmaceutical companies aren't far behind.
Right. They also do an awful lot. They have huge money, and it's going to be pretty hard to elect somebody that's not in the pocket of the insurance companies now. Well, Paul. Where do you come from? Do you live around here? Did you always live here or what?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Fredonia. I lived in the Gowanda area for a period of years because I worked up there. And I retired, and then I moved back to, actually I was looking in Fredonia, but housing was much more affordable in Dunkirk, so I moved to Dunkirk, and I like it very much there, actually.
Dunkirk is a beautiful little village, town, city.
Oh, I love it where I am. I love it where I am.
Yeah,
I'm
well, my
in a
wife
nice
was born
spot.
and raised there. Her mother taught kindergarten to every kid in Dunkirk for years. Pomeroy was her name, Ellen Pomeroy. And it's I don't know, it's just a nice community. Although upstate here in New York, we have so many beautiful little communities. And healthcare is not the big issue for most people, but when you become a little older, then you start worrying about it. It's a big deal. And the insurance rates have just rocketed lately. I see some of them gone up 100% in the last couple of years.
Actually, I don't even have an issue with insurance personally. I'm well insured. It's affordable. I don't have an issue with it. I listen to other people. If I'm at Tim Hortons with my friends, and you listen to people talk, and you see that this is a huge issue for millions of people in this country. The last statistics I've seen, something like 44 million people are uninsured or underinsured. Depending which article you read. Either way, it's a lot of people.
Okay.
That's a hugely significant amount of people.
Well, it's going to become worse, Paul, because, well, this year Congress is cutting back on health care for Medicare for seniors and disabled people. And last year, they cut $500 billion, not $500,000 billion, $500 billion out of Medicare last year. And now they're trying to cut it even more. And more health care is going to be unavailable to seniors. And of course, they won't give us the COLA, so you can't even buy food anymore if you're a senior, but not to mention pay for your health care. It's becoming a crazy quilt of regulations and nonsense between all the different insurance companies. And, you know, they had a hospital. They compared a hospital in Canada with one in the United States. They were right on the border. Same number of people, pretty much, same sort of services. And the hospital on the American side had 50 people in their offices doing the healthcare reports and the paperwork and the insurance, basically. And in Canada, they had 3 people doing it. They have the national health care.
Yes.
There's none of this nonsense. And one of the 3 people that were doing the paperwork were doing it for Americans who had gone into the hospital up there. So you can see it's becoming quite a mess.
Most of the things I've heard, or read about the Canadian healthcare system, negative things, all come from people who had a vested interest in the ridiculous system we have. If you talk to people in Canada, I don't know anyone that has a problem with their healthcare system.
97% of the Canadians, when polled, say they like their healthcare system, according to the statisticians.
A lot of the surgeries that you read about when people come to the United States for treatment, and we've all seen those statistics, you know, about people running across the border because they can't get the care here, there. A lot of that care are voluntary and elective surgeries like tummy tucks and nose bobs
and belly tucks
and
tummy tucks.
if you're going to complain about the healthcare system because you can't get, you know, that kind of work done, then I guess there's no sense talking to people like that. Right. But clearly the Canadian system works. And as you said earlier, every industrialized nation in the world but the United States of America has national health care. We're the only ones who don't. And a lot of those countries are beating us economically now. They're beating us in longevity, age. They're beating us even in infant mortality. I find that disgusting. The United States of America is somewhere in the middle of the pack for infant mortality.
Well, Canada, who they complain about, their healthcare system, the people that have a vested interest usually, they have less infant mortality than we do in the United States, and they live longer, I might add.
Exactly.
In Canada, under the so-called horrible healthcare system. Tell me the difference. You know, one of the factors that enters into healthcare is the difference between routine service and urgent. What's the difference?
Well, in urgent care, you roll into an emergency room, you're having a cardiac arrest, or you're in some sort of dramatic pain. They do X-rays, and you've got a blockage in a vein somewhere. They find a tumor that's growing rapidly. That's all urgent care. That stuff needs to be taken care of quickly, and
okay, then
that stuff we can get done. It's the other care we just do the most horrible job on. We don't pay for. We don't have a system that encourages people to go to the doctor, get their physicals, do things like that. We don't provide anything
routine and
that would do that
preventative
for
care.
people.
We got a couple of calls. You want to take a call?
Sure.
Hey, morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Reed. Good morning to your guest.
Uh-huh.
I have a question for your guest.
Yeah.
It would appear that you're an advocate for health care, and I was wondering, since you were talking about congressmen and so forth, have you reached out to our Congressman Higgins and what his response is, or have you? Are you thinking about it, or is there a movement afoot? Can you respond to that at all?
I've never done that, and I'll tell you why I've never done that, is because Congress already had their shot. We saw what they did. You pretty much know how everybody voted. It's always a party line vote, so right now, and I say right now, the Democrats are advocating for it and actually passed a rather inadequate plan, but at least it was something. The Republicans are staunchly against it because that's what the party's telling them to do, so why bother? They're not listening to you, they're not listening to me, and that's why things in this country are a mess. They're listening to their party leadership, and their party leadership is concerned with money. And the money's not coming from us, so we don't have any say in the matter. I've given up on Congress myself.
Where's the money coming from?
PACs, rich people, people with thousands and thousands of dollars to hand to people in envelopes.
So that's and so you don't, as the caller mentioned, you don't really have much faith in Congress.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
Just
nothing against any individual, Brian Higgins, Kathy Young, nobody, I don't care if it's the state level, federal level, it's my absolute lack of faith that any individual congressman, congresswoman is going to do anything against what the party leadership calls for.
So basically, we're doomed.
Basically, yes.
We'll
That's-
never, we'll never get above the rich and powerful.
Basically, yes, and actually, the rich and powerful have consolidated their power more in a